happening. But like I said, but let's just say that if our cottage crumbled and we had to replace it, we might want to put it 100 feet back from where we are. We might want to move it to a little different location. I can't imagine us doing much more than that with it, but we want to leave that option open that, we might have to rebuild. Our cottage is a little cottage. It's a cottage. We can't stay there in the winter.
Well, I guess that everything you said is my concern. I don't know if you know, I vote against the sale of these all the time,
yeah.
So it won't be personal.
But what I'm saying to you is, you're trying to do something. Our projects have nothing to do with your political garbage in this town, as far as I'm concerned. Nothing. And then what I'm saying to you is, that project would have been into the ground if it wasn't 2 years ago in January that it was knocked back a year. It would have been into the ground that summer. Okay, because it was ready for approvals in January, February. For the 2 acres you people are selling now for $6,000, $7,000 an acre, you wouldn't sell it to us at $39,000 an acre. You remember that, Mrs. Perez?
Okay, hi, this is Brian O'Haron. I'm here tonight with a lot of clips. We're going to talk about Selectman Perez and the Indocrats and the developers tonight for the whole program. I got about 17 clips, one way or another, of which you've already seen 4. The first clip was a lady at the lake who wanted to buy a small piece of property adjoining her and her sisters and relatives' cottage. And then you saw the developer's consultant, Anthony Solano. First, I have a public service announcement tonight. The Democrats have lost one of their signs. I showed a Democrat sign on my program last week, and Barbara Wilkes called into the police station and suggested that perhaps I stole one of their Democratic signs, when of course I didn't. What I did is I went to a landowner who had one of the signs on his property, and I asked for permission to photograph it. Took it down to Staples, had it made into a little poster that looked like the sign, and used it on this program. So if you've stolen one of the Democratic signs, please turn it into Barbara Wilkes, and then you will not get penalized. I hope. I can't speak for her, but I don't think she would penalize you. Also, I want to point out that a lot of people that have the Democratic signs are crossing off names on them in their front yard. I think that's very amusing. People are getting a big kick out of that. My guest tonight is Selectman Perez's empty chair. This is a very lonely chair. I went over to see it today to take a picture, and it seems very lonely because Selectman Perez has missed 13 meetings during this administration. And as I've told you before, Mayor Fracasso has only missed 1 in 2 years to date. This week's show, I can talk for weeks and months about the shortcomings of Selectman Perez as a selectman. I don't know much about her as an educator or a sports person, but as a selectman, she has a lot of shortcomings. And rather than talk about them tonight, I'm going to try to show them to you. Tonight I will be playing several clips from the Board of Selectmen meetings in an attempt to illustrate Selectman Perez's die-hard link to her fellow extreme conservationist Indocrat selectmen, the de facto majority in the 2005-2007 administration. They were in favor of the gigantic $42 million plus interest, about $13 million in interest or so, if it all went through and as planned, bond package that their unanticipated relegation to minority status in the last election defeated. The people spoke, and no referendum was needed because the people voted for 5 Republicans as a knee-jerk reaction or a planned reaction because they didn't want that bond package. There was no need to go to a referendum, waste the money and time. They were at odds with a major developer throughout their administration, as this series of clips will show. For want of an acre or so of land at Highland Lake, the projects and their associated revenue were delayed for some time. The cooperation that was nurtured from its inception with the developer by previous town leaders seems to have been reversed by the Indocrats and their supporters, two of whom were Democrats. Watch the clips tonight and decide for yourself whether or not you want to suffer through a fourth administration with Selectman Perez. The agenda tonight, September 30th, 2009. Time remaining until the November election. The Perez problem. An epilogue. And Brian's comments. If time I will show the Democratic selectman and liaison to the rec board, Michael Renzullo's marijuana suggestions to the police chief at a recent Board of Selectmen meeting. Election day is November 3rd, 2009. Days to the election, 34. Weeks to the election, 5. Months to the election, 1. The election is gaining on us. Final weekly program, Planning for Success. This program will be Wednesday, October 28th, 2009. With that, we will go and start playing the clips. I just want to introduce the first one here. The first clip is Althea Perez at a selectman meeting explaining why the need and her resolve for a conservation easement when people purchase small lots at Highland Lake.
I've been pretty steady on this all the way through. I think that the lots up at the lake on these sides, the reason I think we want to see the plot plan was because 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 added to 16, 17 in terms of perhaps might be better in terms of water quality, in terms of making sure that there's filtration. So I would move them if we put the condition on for a conservation easement on them.
2007, the last selectman meeting before the election. I'm going to play another clip of Selectman Perez at a selectman meeting at a different time saying very similar things about the need and her resolve for conservation easements.
We have a buffer between all of the development that's currently there as well as new development. I think there should be a conservation easement on this property, that if he was to merge it, that there should be no building on it. I believe the intent by the same person the last time was to merge all of the lots, his and these, and to try to make a building lot out of it, even though all of the property together is underneath the Highland Lake Zone 1 acre. So I would urge all of you to vote no to this. I think that people in town could benefit greatly by having a conservation easement on it and not another house, so to speak. And also, if it is going to be something that's merged to make a building lot, that's a pretty cheap building lot at Highland Lake.
During this administration, this conservation easement has polarized the two major parties, because the majority has a whole different outlook on this than the minority, and all the facts aren't agreed between all the parties on just how much damage not having this conservation easement will do to the lake. The next permit, by the way, whenever we try to get enough people to one of these small, very town meetings to help people get their purchase the property without an easement, it's very difficult to get people to the meetings. And the conservationists can always get their contingent of people by just sending out one simple email, one of which they sent me errantly during a year, and I read it. It was from Selectman Perez. Selectman Perez will be in the next clip discussing her Zoning Board of Appeals ZBA variance application. I'm pretty sure it was the one to add a 3-bay garage on her property with a room above the garage at Highland Lake. There may or may not be a conservation easement on her property.
That in 2004, I went to ZBA for a variance. I withdrew it in 2004 because of a decision here as a Board of Selectmen person, and I withdrew it so that there wouldn't be a conflict of interest for me. I reapplied in February and had to pay additional fees because it had to be put into the newspaper. I paid those fees. I didn't argue for those fees. I didn't ask for waivers for those fees at the time. I was denied in that case. In September of 2004, I went forward to ask for the variance with a change in the plans that I had, and I was asked for new fees at that time. Before me,
I'm pretty sure that when asked that question, and you can call in and ask her that question on one of the shows, she'll say, well, I didn't buy it. It wasn't sold to me by the town. That's the kind of thing she would most likely say. That's what a conservationist would do. But it seems to me that if you have a piece of property and you are a conservationist and you want to make sure that the water and trees remain and the water can seep into the ground, etc., that and it's not impervious, that you might not build a garage on your property when you're denying others from buying small parcels next door and building a garage on that. Just my view. And the next clip is kind of the standard Perez formula. If you watch this as an analyst, you can see a lot and tell a lot about Selectman Perez from this. Selectman Perez is replying at a Selectman meeting to Selectman Capabianca and the developer's consultant, Anthony Solano, during the public comment section of the meeting.
he said that people have been asking, the question, he said a greater majority of people aren't asking about the private investigators, but they're asking about what are we waiting for, when are they going to build the golf course, and when is it going to start? It is my belief, and I believe the data supports me and the evidence supports me, that the project for the golf course and the 55 and older housing was approved in 2006. During the application process for that golf course, there were times, and it was talked about the Army Corps being involved in the state of Connecticut DEP. At that time, if I remember correctly, the developers' own authorities on the subject spoke about that and spoke that they weren't sure that they were going to need the Army Corps or the state DEP to approve things, but that would be included during the process of what they were doing. So they've had the permit since 2006 from the both boards in town. So what are we waiting for, and when are they going to build the golf course? There was a lawsuit, so they had to wait for they brought a lawsuit against the decision and the conditions, if I'm correct, because I only like to speak of evidence. I don't want to speak of my opinion on things. So that is also one of the things to be taken under consideration. In the golf course and the golf course and the 55 and older, I believe, are waiting for the Army Corps and the state DEP. It's no longer waiting for any approvals from this town. So that project, as far as I know, is approved and can be ready to go as soon as the state finishes their work. As far as the new applications, those are in process, so there's no comment to be made on that. And I think that's where I'll leave that one.
Well, Selectman Perez has a very selective memory there, and I find that to be true over the last 5 or 6 years that I've been watching her in action here. So Anthony Solano, the consultant to the developers, is now in the next clip responding to the comments from Selectman Perez.
It had nothing to do with us holding up the project. What held up the project when the last election, when the independents and the Democrats knocked us out of the box in January, forget that part, okay, with the technicality of the 2 lots, okay? You knocked aside, you wouldn't sell us 2 lots, do you remember? And then 3 days later, Mrs. Peacock's board nixed the project, and we had to start all over
It's
again.
been approved since 2006.
No, well, it took us another 9 months. And what I'm saying to you is, you're trying to do something, our projects have nothing to do with your political garbage in this town, as far as I'm concerned. Nothing. And then what I'm saying to you is, that project would have been into the ground if it wasn't 2 years ago in January that it was knocked back a year. It would have been into the ground that summer, okay, because it was ready for approvals in January, February. For the 2 acres you people are selling now for $6,000, $7,000 an acre, you wouldn't sell it to us at $39,000 an acre. You remember that, Mrs. Perez?
Well, that's a real interesting comment there, because at the selectmen meeting, because that time we lost there, a year or two, there are other reasons too why we lost some time, but that really hurt us during this last recession, because we might have had these projects moving along much faster, as they imply, and maybe we'd have at least some money coming in before the recession hit us. The next clip will be the attorney for the developers from Hartman and Craven of Litchfield, Connecticut, representing the developer at a selectman meeting in the Hicks Room, Town Hall.
For starters, I'll make a motion that we sell lots 388 through 409 and lot 417 to Aurora Rosa in the amount of $35,700.
Second.
Further public comment? No public comment. Further comment? Discussion?
Just real quick discussion. I mean, we've had 2 bids here. They're pretty much very different in the amounts that came through. These are paper stamped pieces of property that we are landlocked with, and it's being sold to an abutter, which we have talked about that if we are going to sell town-owned land, it's going to be to an abutter. And I just think the town needs to move forward and allow this project and this process to go through its process.
I want to make clear, you said that, is this a budding property? Do these people own this or no, that made this bid?
Yes, I don't want to say for sure, I'm not positive. I mean, that's not something I looked at, but Mr. Brian, I'm sure has the map.
We're definitely abutting property owners. Yes. We own the parole parcel, which is immediately south of this.
Okay, here we go. All in favor of the motion? Selectman Capabianca, Selectman Case? Opposed? Selectman Wilkes? Selectman Melcher? Selectman Villa? Welcome. Abstention? 1 abstention. Motion fails.
Well, they decided not to sell the land to the developer, and that caused a big problem for us as a town and as taxpayers. That was town attorney Nelligan who spoke first, and then Pearlie Grimes, who confirmed that they were abutting property owners, who spoke second. And Selectman Perez abstained. The meetings I've seen her at where she abstains a lot, if it's not for a school issue or something like that, and she does a lot of that, less of that now in this administration, is because she doesn't really want to get involved in any lawsuits, and she often was confused between a recusal and an abstention. You'll see a little of that on a later clip. So with that, we will now play the next clip, which is Attorney Pearlie Grimes from Hartman and Craven for the developer, asking them to reconsider.
Is that we asked for 2 things this evening. We asked you to reconsider your vote regarding the land. This is the subject of the petition that Mr. Ham brought to you this evening. My position is that this board can reconsider that vote this evening. Any one of the selectmen here who voted in favor of the resolution, which was to deny my client's bid for the project, can bring that up under Robert's Rules of Order. I ask that that be addressed this evening. I asked for it to be on the agenda. I see that it's not. Perhaps it's under one of your executive session items. I'm not sure. But if you're in executive session, my suggestion to you is that you reconsider the vote to not allow us to acquire the land, but rather to immediately reconsider that vote, and we urge you to adopt that vote. For $35,700, this landlocked parcel of land should really be sold, and it should really be sold to the highest bidder.
Well, that was Attorney Grimes asking them to reconsider, which they didn't do, or they did, but they didn't change their decision. And it was mainly the Democrats that voted against selling that land, and the Republicans voted in favor, and the other Democrat, Selectman Perez, abstained. In the next clip, we'll begin to see some of the adversity that came in between this administration, the Democrats, and the developer, when the attorney, Pearlie Grimes, from Hartman and Craven of Litchfield, Connecticut, representing the developer at a selectman meeting in the Hicks Room, Town Hall, makes a request of Selectman Perez.
Aurora Estates LLC, which is the developer of the project that we've been talking about, known as Highland Ridge Estates. I have first an initial problem with regard to one of your members not recusing herself in the past on this matter, and that is Ms. Perez. And I'd like to ask Ms. Perez, since she has recused herself on the prior matter for the Wetlands Commission where we had an application pending, I think it's only appropriate that she recuse herself as a member of the Board of Selectmen in dealing with all matters on your agenda this evening that deal with my client, Aurora Rosa and Aurora Estates LLC. There's no doubt that Ms. Perez felt strongly that she should recuse herself after the hearing started at the Wetlands Commission, and she did do so after acknowledging that initially back in 2004 at a December meeting she said that she was anxious to try to buy the property herself, couldn't afford it, had tried to raise some funds from others to buy the property and was unable to do so. And when I reminded her of that back in September of 29th of 2005, she took several days and thereafter saw the light and recused herself from participating further on the Wetlands Commission, and I asked, therefore, that Candy Perez recuse herself from any discussion of any matters involving my client, specifically on this evening's agenda, items 15, 16, and 19, and 20.
The next clip was a short one. It shows Attorney Pearlie Grimes at the select meeting introducing the developer and introducing the topic of financial advantages of the development to the town of Winchester.
To superintend the affairs of the municipality and to do the best job that it can for the municipality. And we have presented certain tax revenue figures to various and sundry boards in the past, and I'd like to just hand out and then briefly discuss the tax impacts of this particular project on behalf of the town of Winchester. If I may just approach the...
He's handing out the paper as we speak, and you see a picture of the empty chair. Selectman Perez missed 13 meetings so far during this administration. My grandfather would roll over in his grave if he ever finds that out. But now I'll introduce the next clip, which is a little longer. It's 4 minutes and 55 seconds or so. And it's Attorney Pearlie Grimes at the Selectman meeting representing the developer, explaining the developer's resolve and explaining the financial benefits to the town of Winchester.
Of this particular project. And what this does is it shows that with 456 units built in this particular project on this parcel of land, there will be net revenues and taxes of $3,770,000 per year. $3,770,000 net revenues per year from taxes alone. From the golf club amenities, there will be an additional $108,000 per year in tax revenue. From the golf course, the real estate aspect, $65,000 a year. And from the golf course personal property, $21,000 a year. So the total tax revenue to your municipality is $3,965,000 per year when this project is complete. There's also going to be some local economic stimulus, which is reflected on the handout that I gave to you, which is a significant stimulus, not only for cost to construct, but also the ancillary stimulus for the contractors being here during the construction phase. During the post-completion phase, there will be people living in these units, and they will be generating income to the local service providers and the local retail people, which we estimate to be about $4 million a year. During the construction phase, there will be jobs generated. During post-completion, there will be remaining jobs in the community. The jobs created over 5 years, we estimate to be 1,500 jobs over the construction phase. The jobs created on a total basis at the end of the project would be 72 jobs per year. There will be sewer fees that will be generated by this project to the extent of connection fees and usage fees. The sewer and water usage fees alone total $669,000 a year to this community. Now, why do I bring this to you? I bring this to you because your charge as selectmen in this town is to do what's in the best interests of the town. Not in the best interest of your particular point of view, not in the best interest of some of your neighbors' point of view, but in the best interest of the town. I challenge any member of the Board of Selectmen to find a project that is more tax positive than this anywhere. My clients own this land. They intend to develop this land. We have had discussions with members of the community for a long time about this, and we think that this is a tax-positive project because it is an active adult community. And being an active adult community, it will not generate tax dollars needed to support children in schools. And it is a very, very positive aspect for your community to consider. You've seen other communities considering this. You've seen other communities getting involved. And there's no reason why the town of Winchester should not have an active adult community. This is the perfect place for it. If you have concerns relative to this, that, or the other thing with regard to the aspects, the 456 units, the golf course, or whatever, we're here to discuss it, just as we've been here to discuss it with members of the Board of Selectmen and others since December 22, 2004, when we started this, when we got positive feedback from all of the members that were there and all of the various boards and commissions. I don't know what has happened in the last year to make this shift, but these figures have not changed. They remain the same. Actually, we had 630 units at one time. Now we're down to 456 units because there were some concerns addressed as to the number of units, and we lessened the project. There's no doubt in my mind that any other community, and several have talked to us actually, would die to have this project. And there's no reason from an environmental standpoint, planning and zoning standpoint, why Winchester should not have this project. My clients have worked hand in glove with various boards and commissions for the past 12 months, only to be told on January 17th, we can't have the land. That necessitated us, or actually caused a denial of our application before the wetlands, which necessitated us to go back and refile with wetlands. We're back. We're not going away. We've redrafted holes 13 and 14 to put them on our property. We're not going away. We're staying with this project. We've made no other changes to the plans. We're back before wetlands this month. We will be reapplying to planning and zoning the following month. We will be on their agenda. We will be going forward with this project. I ask you as members of the Board of Selectmen to follow your charge and to look at the best interests of the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, Pearlie said he didn't know what happened for the atmosphere to change so much in 1 year. Well, what happened was the Democrats won the election. And, of course, then they lost the election, and the Republicans were back in charge, and they tried to patch up this credibility problem with the developer. Now we're going to get another attorney, Attorney Ralph Crozier, who's the owner of Winchester LLC and general manager of the partnership investing in this project. He's at the same selectman meeting, And he's going to explain the composition of the membership of his investment group and their relationship to Anthony Solano and Aurora Rosa, Mrs. Aurora Rosa. Things heat up here a bit towards the end between Crozier and the Indocrats. And Crozier also is going to ask for cooperation and recusals of 2 of the selectmen for a legal cause.
Please state your name and...
Yes, my name is Ralph Crozier, Madam Mayor, ladies and
you
gentlemen,
live at-
select people.
I'm sorry, you live at...
Crozier.
I know, but do you
And I am
live
the
in
owner
town?
of Winchester Estates LLC and the manager of it. I own 160 acres along with 12 other investors on Route 8, Old Route 8, with 1,500-foot frontage, and Mountain Road with 1,600-foot frontage, as well as 20 acres of industrial and commercial land. This month, we paid the town thousands of dollars in taxes. We are in this town. We're going to be in this town for a long time. I'm here to tell you that it's my understanding that certain people on this board have questioned who we are. My group consists of a psychologist, a banker, 2 lawyers, an accountant, a restaurateur, a gentleman who owns a number of cleaning stores, a soil scientist, a president of a manufacturing company of Oxford, a real estate broker, and 3 retired business people. And Mrs. Rosa, who is the person who put us all together, who I've known for 25 years and represented over those years. She has developed a project at Beacon Falls of 234 units, which is now going into the ground, and is before them with 341 units of a similar nature of the project that is here before this town. She's developed previously 13 lots of Aurora Estates. I know that has been questioned by the mayor, because I've read the newspapers. The newspapers clearly tell me that the mayor has made a statement that she does not feel that the outside consultant is a person who's reputable. In fact, is called him a liar. I've written a letter 10 days ago asking for retraction. I've not heard anything. I do believe that today there will be a meeting where a group of you would like to go into executive session and discuss this. This is a personal comment made by the mayor, personally. She put her personal foot in her personal mouth, and she would like the town to pay or foot that bill. I understand they're looking for a town council. I think this is your problem. I think you have to do what you have to do. You've said what you've said in the public. Now, what are you going to do for this town? Are you going to make the townspeople of this town pay for your mistakes, for your statements? You're going to place it on their budgets? You're going to make them hire lawyers? You must recuse yourself in this case. The agenda is clear. The number of items on this matter before you today, you shouldn't have anything to do. It's unethical for you to continue. Same way, Ms. Perez. I believe you even wrote a newspaper article that you have recused yourself in the Register Citizen Opinion, Wednesday, January the 25th. I believe you said, for my part, I have only recused myself in any votes in any capacity as a town official. I believe you're a town official here today.
Is abstentions recusal?
Excuse me, ma'am, that's what you said.
No, do you equate
No, abstaining is a vote, ma'am, and that's the law. You either vote pro, against, or abstain. A recusal is a recusal. You get up, you walk out, you do not participate. You don't participate in conversation, you don't participate behind the scenes.
Excuse me, Mr. Crozier, could you state your point here?
I believe that the independent people have already told this town that they're committed to dispose of all town-operated property and get rid of the surpluses. I believe this is their, what they handed out to the town. It's time for a change. It certainly is. I understand that they have repeatedly told this town what they intend to do and that they believe that town employees are entitled to perform their duties in an environment free of taint and pressures and partisan politics. We came to this town with 650 units of a fabulous project. When it was first presented to me, it was brought in as a Section 8. You don't need low-income housing in this town. We don't need to get a permit from your P&Z or your wetlands. I, in fact, and Mr. Solano, an outside consultant, decided that we were going to make this the upscale place for this town. Mr. Seminetti, who was in fact in charge of the golf course, his wife died in the midst of this. Her name was Ann. That's how we got St. Anne's. He's a golfer and loves to golf. Under the circumstances, when we brought this in in order to create $4 million for this town to build the most upscale project that this town had ever seen. Not to put 800 children into your town schools, increase your budget by $1.7 million for the town schools, and probably a $75 million school get onto it. Mr. Vila, I see you scowling. But yet you
Excuse
were on
me,
a TV
sir.
program
No, you
on
are out of
January
order,
27th
sir.
called
Please sit
Winstead
down. You're
Views.
done. Sit down, please. You're done. This is not an inquisition
Ma'am,
court.
you make your
Please,
decision as
sit
to whether
down.
you recuse yourself.
Please, sit down.
Of course I will. I'll
This
abide by
matter
the
has
rule of
been
law. I
sent to
hope
our
you do,
town
too.
attorney, and our town attorney will look into it along with our bonding attorney. And that's where it stands right now.
Well, nobody ever said we had great relationships with developers and businessmen in this town. You saw a little example of that right there. And the people trying to come into the town and our people at odds with each other doesn't make much sense. No business would tolerate that. The next clip is going to be very interesting. Selectman Perez gets up to defend herself and makes a surprise announcement.
As I live at 605 Wakefield Boulevard, I'm speaking to you as a citizen of this town. I've lived here for about 14 years, but have been a summer resident since I was 5 years old back in 1963. I feel tonight that I've been attacked by two attorneys that have attacked my integrity, so I feel the need to respond. I'm glad that Mr. Crozier was nice enough to point out the legal difference between recusing and abstaining. I did vote once as an abstention, but I thought it was not participating in the vote as I did not speak that night. I do not have his experience or Mr. Grimes' experience as an attorney, so all I can do is the best I can do as a person and a citizen like anyone else in this town. I want you to all remember as I speak to you that I have no financial gain from my position as a selectman, nor will I gain from any work on the project. I own no land near it to sell. I own no company that can earn work for it. Back in September, the applicant's attorney asked me to recuse from the inland wetland decision. Mr. Grimes had never asked me to do so before when he was counsel against wetland projects. I did as he asked. He said something about a meeting in 2004, and that meeting, as all of you should know about, was a meeting of all commissions in town were asked together to comment on the project. I was being honest in my answer when I said, because of the time that I've spent on the lake, that yes, if I had the funds, would I buy it? Sure I would. But it was no different than anything else anybody else would have said, and no, I did not ask others to raise funds. I have not taken part in any of the discussions at Board of Selectmen's meetings when it came to take votes on these matters, and I did abstain. I thought it was recusing or being out of the matter. However, the legal experts may say different. Tonight, I believe I have my ability back to do as I was elected to do, which is look out for the best interests in town. I've resigned from the Inland Wetlands Board effective this afternoon. As all of this goes on, I ask each person that's watching in town, what does each person stand to lose and which person stand to gain? Who is really looking out for the town's best interest today and for the long term? And I'd just like to add one more thing. Mr. Solano, who is the consultant for this project, on December 10th or 17th, I can't remember which Saturday it was, but we were shopping in JCPenney's together in West Farms Mall. Mr. Solano told me at that time that he thought we shouldn't have asked me to be off the Wetlands Commission, as he thought I was a good member of that commission. He was just following legal counsel's advice to do so. So I stand before you. I believe I have the right to join the Board of Selectmen again this evening, as I no longer have any conflict of interest with being on the Wetland Board with that. Thank you.
Well, took long enough to figure that out. She was on the Inland Wetland Board as a member at the same time that she was a selectman. And that caused a lot of confusion between the town and the developers. Also in that last clip, you saw a lot of kind of innuendo. I think everybody is doing their best, including Selectman Perez. Everybody wants to do well for the town. Just that different people have different ideas about how to do that. Some people think that if you sell a piece of land to a developer or a homeowner, they will misuse it and destroy the lake or the river. Other people think it's a difference in philosophy. If you sell a piece of land to a developer or a homeowner, that the land use boards will protect the town and that the owner will not misuse the land. So that's where the difference in philosophy comes in. It's not we against them, them against us against the developer. We should all be working together to make this a success. And as you can see from these clips, during that administration, and still to this day, we are not working together. And if we re-elect the Indocrats again, we certainly won't be working together, as some of the next clips, I hope, will emphasize. Well, not to be outdone, Attorney Grimes will now get up and give an answer to Selectman Perez.
Grimes, and I'd just like to briefly respond to Ms. Perez's remarks. Having recused herself once at the Wetlands Commission on behalf of my client, I ask that she continue to recuse herself on all matters dealing with this project, which are items for this evening, 15, 16, 19, and 20, which I said before. I don't think that the appearance of impropriety can be done away with by simply saying, well, now I've resigned from the Wetlands Board. Now I'm choosing to be on this board, which I'm going to judge your application on my clients, where she already recused herself once at the Wetlands Commission. I think prudence would tell us, and also the law would tell us, that the best thing to do is to simply have Ms. Perez recuse herself on all matters relating to this, as she once started this process with her recusal and should continue to do so. Thank you.
Well, that's his answer, and I can tell you it's two well-versed attorneys from very good law firms discussing with somebody who has very little legal background, so little that after 2 terms in office doesn't know the difference between a recusal and an abstention. You'd think we would learn these things as we went along, and we do have an attorney that these selectmen can consult should they need to. Not to be outdone, Selectman Perez is back up again, responding to the latest comment of Attorney Grimes.
Again, I don't like my integrity contested in public because I believe I do have it. And Mr. Pearlie Grimes, the attorney for the applicant, just said that the appearance of impropriety, and the law would tell us so, that I should be recusing myself from now on. Well, in thinking about it, since that time when I did recuse myself from the Wetlands Project back in September, there have been numerous people that have spoke in favor of the project. There are people that have taken on the Board of Selectmen. There are 2 selectmen that took maps from Town Hall and spoke about it in public and have been around asking for people to support it by showing the things politically on their show. So if I'm to recuse myself, which I don't believe that I need to at this point in time, not being a member of Wetlands, I would ask that other members as well.
We need to address it.
Well, there she is, trying to throw the Republicans in the stew pot, along with the Indocrats and the developer, and that doesn't build teamwork. It's not the way to build teamwork. And I find that quite often Selectman Perez is very defensive, very argumentative, and pretty strong-willed, and doesn't appear to me, for someone who used to be, for 18 years or so, a coach in the sports world, she should be a little better than that at trying to build teamwork. We need to get everybody working together, and the answer is not to blame somebody else or drag them into the stew pot with you. Now we're going to hear from the consultant to the developer, Anthony Solano again, at a much later date, in November 5th, 2007, a few days before the last election.
My name is Tony Solano. I am the developer in the town here, Winchester Estates. And I would like to direct some comments were made against the subdivision at a show last week. There were some distruths whatever, I don't want to say liar because I don't think anybody would lie with these things. Mr. Wilkes called in there and into the show with Mrs. Wilkes and a few other members, select people that are running, and I don't believe that we should have been part of this. He said that he spoke to the president of the company of Wyndham Homes in Beacon Falls, and we have our the other subdivision that we've gotten approved, and Wyndham Homes is building. He did not speak to any president. He only spoke to an associate, and he distorted what the man told him. The truth is, Wyndham Homes bought 234 homes from us. We have another 305 homes sold to Wyndham Homes. There. So they have over 500 homes to build down there in Beacon Falls. The gentleman that talked to Mr. Wilkes was not aware of these things. We work very well with that company. I think they're probably the finest company in the Northeast here. I wish I could get them up here, but I don't believe that they have the money to come up here. We are talking to other nationals or semi-nationals. And we believe that we have one semi-national that we believe is in the same direction as Wyndham Homes. So as soon as we get out of this Army Corps stuff, which we've been in front of Army Corps for about 10 months now, and that was repeated the other night that I wasn't in front of the Army Corps. That was never said to somebody, or somebody misunderstood me. We hope to be out of there by the end of this year, maybe early part of next year. And that project will be into the ground as fast as I can get it in there. Now, I want you to understand, it's the same people of this board. Now, my project doesn't have 60 units already standing up there. When you people came into power 2 years ago, you knocked me out of the box for 1/3 of an acre of land. And the next night, Wetlands refused the project because it was not complete. Okay, I didn't make any of this, but what happened the other night upset me very, very much. Everything I've done, I've come into this town, we've spent $10 million in this town, and I've got no respect for some of you. The people that put this money in are people just like you. They're no different. And we believe in this town. I think I believe in this town more than you do. Some of you do. Okay, and Mrs. Welcome and Mrs. Perez, we have no lawsuits against this town right now. All lawsuits have been settled. We have no problems with this town right now. And I just want to, because I understand, I heard it tonight when you were on the show today, or yesterday, I don't know, they told me that about lawsuits. There is no lawsuits in this town. We have no problems in this town right now whatsoever. But I don't like the truth to be distorted. I just don't like it at all. And we've been supported by Mr. Capabianca and Mr. Case for this project. That's the only support I've seen. Okay, and I haven't battled you people. I've tried to work with you, Mrs. Wilkes. Many, many times I spoke to you, but what happened here the other night was wrong. I did not belong in this. And I spoke to you a couple weeks ago about it. And I'm very, very, sorry that you people did this. You allowed us to be in your politics. I've given to any commitment we made to your town, we've done it already. Any commitment. And there's people in this room who can tell you that. And all of you can say that. I've done nothing wrong to this town. Every time, whatever we told you we've done, we're going to do, we're going to do. We always said that the big project we might have to give up. But we're not sure yet. I'm not sure until we go with the second one. When the second one gets approved, we'll go right into the ground, I promise you. We got 2.5 miles of road to build there, and about 1.5 miles, 2 miles of water pipes to lay it down. And that's it. And I appreciate Ms. Welcome for the time.
Thank you. Anyone else with public comment?
Oh, I don't know if it's not just the water, it's the sewer line has to go down there too, and that's what the POCD issue and the issues with the Water and Sewer Commission and the state are. That's being worked on and is making progress. I'm not sure whether it's 10 million or not. I mean, he says it's 10 million. I don't know how much he's spent here, but I can tell you it's a lot of money. And he's invested in our town quite a bit and still wants to do more should all the cards fall in his favor. Now I'm going to switch. You've already seen this very adversarial relationship between the Democrats, who are mainly composed of the extremists, conservationists, and I happen to think that Candy Perez is the leader of that group. And they're pretty much against this development in their backyard, as I said in previous programs. So the next one, I'm going to switch now to the big bond issue, and you'll see Selectman Perez at the last meeting of the administration motion for about $32 million plus for the school's portion of the $42 million plus interest big bond package.
Resolution, resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby adopts the resolution presented to this meeting approving the appropriation of $32,472,000 for costs relating to improvements to various town school facilities, including repairs, improvements, and remediation to the Isabel M. Pearson School, to the William H. Batchelor School, and to the Mary P. Hinsdale School, and for costs relating to the financing of the project and approving the authorization of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. A copy of the resolution shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting, made a part thereof. Further resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby approves the setting of the dates for a special town meeting and referendum to act on the appropriation and borrowing authorization approved above, as reflected in the notice of such special town meeting and referendum presented to this meeting, which notice, to the extent of its references to the aforesaid appropriation and borrowing authorization, is hereby approved. A copy of the notice shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made a part thereof.
Second.
Now the next clip will be Barbara Wilks, Selectman Barbara Wilks, again at the last meeting on November 5th, 2007, the last meeting in their administration, to the best of my knowledge, asking for the town portion of the big bond package.
Costs relating to various improvements and renovations to and acquisitions of town facilities and equipment, including improvements to the Winchester Senior Center, various police fire safety improvements, acquisition and installation of 4 diesel particulate removal systems within the Public Works facility apparatus bays, improvements to portions of Wakefield Boulevard, renovation of the 27 Elm Street Fire Station to provide a multi-purpose use facilities, and improvements at the Town Hall to house the offices of the Town Clerk, and for costs relating to the financing of the project and calling of a town meeting and referendum to act on such appropriation and borrowing authorization.
Yes. I'd like to make a motion on the following resolution. Resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby adopts the resolution presented to this meeting approving an appropriation of $10,012,000 for costs relating to various improvements and renovations to and acquisitions of town facilities and equipment, including improvements to the Winchester Senior Center, various police, fire, safety, and safety improvements, acquisition and installation of 4 diesel particulate removal systems within the Public Works facility, apparatus bays, improvement to portions of Wakefield Boulevard, renovation of the 27 Elm Street Fire Station to provide a multi-purpose use facility, and improvements at the Town Hall to house the offices of the Town Clerk, and for costs relating to the financing of the project and approving the authorization of bonds and notes to finance the appropriation. A copy of the resolution shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made a part thereof. Further resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Winchester hereby approve the setting of the dates for a special town meeting and referendum to act on the appropriation and borrowing authorization approved above as reflected in the notice of such special town meeting and referendum presented to this meeting, which notice, to the extent of its references to the aforesaid appropriation and borrowing authorization, is hereby approved. A copy of the notice shall be attached to the minutes of this meeting and made part thereof.
Okay, I'm going to have to speed up a little here because we're running out of time, and I do want to show the marijuana clip again tonight. But the epilogue, the Republicans won the majority in the last election. The big bond package was placed on hold after they won the election. The developer has received his local permits, sans and sewer approval. You're still being worked out with the POCD and the water and sewer people. A worldwide recession has occurred. The POCD is nearing adoption by the state. Developer is negotiating with the DEP and the Army Corps of Engineers. I was at a meeting a few weeks back for that with all the town leaders, except the Democrats and Indocrats. All town leaders except the Indocrats are openly supporting the developments and trying to help the developer should the recession recede. My comments, Brian's comments, Selectman Perez was reported pre-election in the newspaper as stating that she can make decisions. I find not much evidence of that, unless they're decisions that she is forcing a resolution on. But I don't see too much evidence of her being a good decision maker. Perez was reported pre-election as saying that she is short of time, and this is a paraphrase, short of time for all the activities that she's involved in, engaged in. I agree with that. Did miss 13 meetings and doesn't prepare well, in my opinion, for the selectmen meetings. And often when she does prepare, she has her facts wrong, and she doesn't seem to be able to remember from meeting to meeting. And when she misses a meeting, she doesn't seem to read the minutes from those prior meetings. Perez doesn't seem to say what she means. It's tough for an analyst to figure out what she means, because she says one thing and often means another. Perez doesn't always seem to mean what she says. The Torrington Register gave her a thumbs down when she implied that she was weak on finance matters in a newspaper article. 3 terms is enough, in my opinion. She hasn't contributed much, in my opinion, and has probably held us back. Vote for Perez? No. I won't vote for Perez for a 4th term. We will now play the marijuana clip. Okay, we won't be able to play the marijuana clip. We'll get it on next week for sure. Thank you. See you next week.